Shalom, everybody. This is Yahuda ben Yisrael, and we're going to do a video on essentially the labor laws that we have in Israelite law. And the reason I'm going to do this particular video is that I was looking at one of those, a rabbi, and I'm not going to say his name, but he said that we don't deal with slavery anymore. And he gave a couple of reasons why. One of those reasons is that, well, back in the old days, we had a lot of land, and so we had to have slaves to work the land, but now we have technology. And you hear that from a lot of people who are into Judaism and rabbinical law. What they'll do is they'll take big chunks of the law and toss them to the side because they really don't understand them. But it's just a fact. The other reason that he said was that we had indentured servants, and he had Israelites as indentured servants, which is incorrect as well. So I just decided to go ahead and make this because we actually have 5 different types of labor classes in our law, and it's like that on purpose. It's not an accident. But before I really get into that, I'm gonna put them up on the screen, the 5 different labor classes. But before I get into that, this I see this a lot. This and I've talked about it before. This little house on the prairie mentality. To think that the law doesn't allow you to have some type of advanced nation, which is a lie. It's just not true. And this feeling that people should just take laws that they don't understand and toss them into the garbage can instead of praying for understanding. And it's something that continues to really hurt people when it comes to really being able to be a prosperous and profitable nation. But first, I'm going to read the 5 labor classes that are actually in Israelite law, and then I'm going to get into the law and explain them. The first one is the hired servant. This is somebody who's going out to get a job. In this case, an Israelite. The second one is the hired servant, or someone who goes out and gets a job, who is a first-generation stranger in the land. And when it says their children can leave with them, it's because sometimes people's children go work with them. I see that a lot in my business, actually. People's children, they bring their children, their sons, older sons, to work with them. They get them a job, basically. Number 3 is another hired servant, or a person who just went out and got a job, and that's a woman. And I'm separating them because you have marriage laws that might apply when it comes to the woman. And I'm going to go into detail about that. Number 4 is a hired servant, somebody who goes and get a job, or they can be a bondman or a bondmaid, or that's where we go into a slave, a bondmaid or a bondman. And that can be a Hebrew brother, not an Israelite. I think people forget we have 7 brothers, Israelites, Abraham's other sons. And the 5th is bondmen and bondmaid, or slaves, who are heathens or second-generation strangers in the land. So those are the 5, and I like to call them labor classes, that we actually have in Israelite law. And the first one I'm going to talk about and deal with this indentured servant as an Israelite doctrine that comes out of a lot of this Judaism and rabbinical law is the hired servant, the Israelite who went out and got a job. And I'm going to start at Leviticus 25 and 39 through 25 and 46. That's Leviticus 25 and 39 through Leviticus 25 and 46. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee. First, let's deal with that word sold. People read that word and they assume that all of a sudden you're talking about a slave. But think about it more, and you'll see as I continue to read it. He's selling his labor. Okay. Thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant. Now, again, a bondservant is a person that's not making wages. Okay, so you're getting into what we would consider a slave. But as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee until the year of Jubilee. So right then and there, we know your brother's a hired servant. He's making wages. He's an employee. Verse 41. Verse 40 again. But as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee until the year of Jubilee. Leviticus 25 and 41. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, unto the possession of his father shall he return. For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. In other words, their labor is not sold in a way to where they are actually owned as property, okay, or controlled as actual property. 25 and 43. Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shalt fear thy God. Verse 24. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Verse 45. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. So right there you have your slaves. Leviticus 25 and 46. And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession, and they shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule one over another with rigor. Now they come up with all types of things to try to lock brothers in to this indentured servitude madness. Indentured servant, which, as you can see, we're hired servants. You pay brothers wages. And what they say is, well, if he borrowed money from a man and he couldn't pay it back, he can go work it off by living with the man, and the man has to provide him with a roof over his head and food to eat, and then he can leave in the year of Jubilee in the 7th year. They come up with all types of stuff. Okay, that comes from a lack of understanding of our economic system, how we actually loan money. First of all, we collect collateral when we loan money as Israelites. Think more in terms of a pawn shop. It's not exactly like that, but think more like that. A brother can use as collateral. You could take as collateral anything but basically how a brother makes his money, the tools of his trade, the upper and his lower millstone. And that's what that means when it says that. So if the brother cuts grass, has a lot, does landscaping for a living, you can't take his tractors and his tools of his trade, so he can repay the money. And you can't take the clothes off a brother's back. Okay. Now, if you're crazy enough to not take any collateral from your brother, or somebody's crazy enough to co-sign, as some of you know if you read Proverbs for your brother, and they don't pay it back, then you have bad credit. Okay. And the loan is paid back within that 6 years, okay, before there's a release on the loans. And I'm just not going to get into the laws regarding loans. And as I've explained it actually in other videos, where, look, if you're making $30,000 a year, you ain't finna get no $1 million loan, okay? Because a lot of times brothers and sisters, they get off into this fantasy world, don't read their law. And, they start thinking they just supposed to be able to walk up just because they're an Israelite, and, they don't have no job, and they just going to get $1 million in gold. Hell yeah, pay me back when you can. No, buddy. Okay, this is an actual functioning economic system. Okay, you just don't walk up making $30,000 a year and think you're about to get $1 million loan. Especially if you're making $30,000 a year, you already owe 15, and it's 2 more years left before it's released. Nobody in their right mind should be loaning you anything, especially without any type of collateral. And if they do that, that's on them. So that's where that comes from. Just lack of understanding our economic system, currencies, and how we put together our currency, and just this our overall economic system, which I can't get into in detail on this video. But I'm going to go ahead and read Leviticus 25 and 35 through 38 anyway. And this is Leviticus 25 and 35 through Leviticus 25 and 38. And if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him, or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase. Leviticus 25 and 38. I am the Lord your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. Um, you ain't allowed to take advantage of your brother, man. The law is just structured so, and it's crazy because it reminds me of this crazy doctrine out there that you can rape your sister, rape another woman. And then my thing is, how the heathens looking at this that are around you? I mean, you get y'all brothers and sisters really, and I understand where they get it from because they don't really read the law, they don't study the law, and so they get it from the barbarians, who live like barbarians. If they could get away with it, they do be doing it in 2016, living like barbarians. So I understand where they get it from, but come on, man, you have to think about how you're treating your brothers and your sisters. Okay, you can't have that type of control over your brothers and your sisters. And as a matter of fact, we're gonna go into a situation where you'll see that, and I'm about to read it right now. This is Leviticus 25 and 47 through Leviticus 25 and 55. Leviticus 25 and 47 through Leviticus 25 and 55. And if a sojourner or stranger wax rich by thee, and thy brother that dwelleth by him wax poor, and sell himself unto the stranger or sojourner by thee, or to the stock of the stranger's family. After that he is sold, he may be, and remember again, when it's saying sold here and it's talking about an Israelite, your brother, it's not talking about he's being a bondman or a bondmaid or his property. He went and got a job. He sold his labor, and you'll see that in a second. After that he is sold, he may be redeemed again. One of his brethren may redeem him. Verse 29. Either his uncle or his uncle's son may redeem him, or any that is nigh of kin unto him of his family may redeem him, or if he be able, he may redeem himself. And he shall reckon with him that brought him from the year that he was sold to him unto the year of Jubilee. And the price of his sale shall be according unto the number of years, according to the time of an hired servant shall it be with him. Now the time of a hired servant is 3 years. This is why you hear bought, sold. It's more like a contract is what we have. The time of a hired servant is 3 years, because the time of a double hired servant is 6 years, and we'll read that in another law. So the time of a double hired servant is 6 years. The time of a hired servant is 3 years. Let me read verse 50 again. And he shall reckon with him that bought him from the year that he was sold to him unto the year of Jubilee. And the price of his sale shall be according to the number of years, according to the time of a hired servant shall it be with him. If there be yet many years behind, according unto them, he shall give again the price of his redemption out of the money that he was bought for. So again, you see that contract coming up. And verse 52, and if there remain but a few years until the year of Jubilee, then he shall count with him, and according unto his years shall he give him again the price of his redemption. Verse 53, and as a yearly hired servant shall he be with him, and the other shall not rule with rigor over him in thy sight. So in other words, if it's less than those 3 years, then that yearly hired servant kicks in, so he doesn't have to serve him for that full 3 years. That's all it's saying right there, depending on the time that he can be redeemed. And what you'll begin to see is, and this is why I'm glad I made those videos a few weeks ago, we have a very planned economy in a lot of ways, and that we're able to put together budgets because of the ages that we number people at, different. But it also applies again to our economic system and how we actually pay wages and set up our wage structure. So believe me, it's I'm not going to sit up here and say it's socialism, because that's what people say. It's not that. It ain't. As a matter of fact, we're very capitalistic. Okay, but we also have things in place that allow us to plan properly so that we have stability and we don't have inflation, because one of the things that is very, very true about our economic system as Israelites is that we don't have a lot of that artificial inflation. And that's what you see here with these wages being on this 3-year contract. If it's more than that, he has to be redeemed or buy it out, basically. And it's less than those 3 years or more than those 3 years, he goes under a yearly system. Now that we got the hired servant out of the way, who's an Israelite, let's talk about the hired servant who's not an Israelite, who may be a stranger in the land. First, let's go to Leviticus 19 and 33 to Leviticus 19 and 34. Leviticus 19 and 33, Leviticus 19 and 34. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in their land, you shall not vex him, but the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And you're going to see how that applies. Exodus 12 and 43 through Exodus 12 and 51. And this is the ordinance of the Passover. And this is really, when you're reading the law, this is one of the places, another one of the places where you see these people and you're asking yourself, who are these people? Exodus 12 and 43 to Exodus 12 and 51. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. Verse 45, a foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. Okay, we know that when it's saying a hired servant here, we're not talking about an Israelite, because an Israelite can eat a Passover. So when it's talking about a hired servant that shall not eat, it's talking about the stranger. But at verse 44, where it says, but every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. It's also talking about a servant too, but it's telling you it's not talking about that hired servant that hadn't been circumcised. That's a stranger. Verse 46, in one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. So that we know an Israelite who's a hired servant can eat of the Passover. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and to the stranger that sojourneth among you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. So again, you have this hired servant who's a stranger in the land, who cannot eat of the Passover. In verse 45 and in verse 44, you have every man's servant that's bought for money, who has been circumcised, then he can eat. So basically what it's saying is, first, the bondman, they can eat of the Passover once they're circumcised. Next up is the hired servant and the foreigner. They cannot eat of the Passover. Next up is the Israelite, who of course can eat of the Passover. Then you have, of course, the first generation stranger in the land must be circumcised. They can eat of, and all the males in their household, they can eat of the Passover. And I'm going to read one more set of scriptures again, so that you can see these people again. This is Leviticus 25 and 6. Leviticus 25 and 6. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you. Okay, so we're talking about for you, and then it says for thee. So we're talking about the Israelite. And for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with thee. So here we see these same people again. But let's move on to the woman now. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about this particular scripture, because it just has turned into this polygyny argument, this focus on how many wives can a brother have. And let's just read it first. Okay, it's Exodus 21 and 7 and 21:11. First, okay, I've dealt with the Israelite who's an hired servant. I dealt with the stranger who's an hired servant. Okay, now we're going to deal with the woman who's an hired servant. This is Exodus 21 and 7 through Exodus 21 and 11. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, meaning to be married, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. 21:9. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. And if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money. Okay, we're going to start this over again, and I'm going to break this all the way down. Exodus 21:7. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. Okay, she's going out to get a job. Okay, that's where I think, I'm sure brothers and sisters need to start at when you're dealing with this. She's going to get a job now, okay? She ain't looking for a husband. Get that part out of your head. For you brothers out there, she's going to get a job. That's supposed to be her priority here, to bring in some money, okay? And verse 8, if she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. Okay, so the boss man, for whatever reason, her and the boss man have got them an attraction to each other. Okay, for whatever reason. Who knows why? I like to say it's sort of like these days when the boss and the secretary have some type of attraction going on. Okay, that's what this is. That's all that this is. Okay, she went out and got a job, and the authority figure at the job and her got something going on. Okay, and they become betrothed, meaning to be married. Okay, and if she please not her master, because that's still her employee. What is it, employer? Right, she's the employee. Then shall he let her be redeemed. In other words, like I talked about earlier, buy that contract out. Okay, it's the hired servant contract. Okay, hey, go get you another job. No problem. Bye-bye. So we can kill this betrothment. Okay, and you go get you another job. Okay. To sell her to, verse 8 again. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. So she can go get her another job. That contract can be bought out. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. So, in other words, no stranger can go buy that contract out, whether it's inside the land or outside the land. No. It has to be an Israelite. She can't go work for no one of them heathens. Okay. Now, verse 9. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, so in other words, the main boss man, right, the authority figure, has said, you know what, you marry my son. Okay, because remember, now in all this, the father still had to give the green light and all this. For those of you who don't remember, and those of you who think they just had sex with each other, boom, bam, bang, they married. That's not how we work in our law. Okay, so the father still had to be green light and all this. Now, just keep that in mind. And so the authority figure, the employer, is not just saying, you finna marry my son, or you about to marry me. It's not going down like that. Verse 9. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. Okay, so you treat her like a daughter. That's fair enough. Verse 10. And if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So if he decide to take him another wife, then it says here very clearly, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. Verse 11, and if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money. Now, the reason why this is like this, for you brothers and sisters out there, is it's talking about a situation where you have a man who's an authority figure. And a lot of times, dudes who are authority figures, they feel they full of themselves. So he got him somebody that came to work for him, being the authority figure. for whatever reason, the daddy said, okay, they become betrothed or she's betrothed to his son. Okay, and his mind is really not where it needs to be. That's why it says here, seeing he has dealt deceitfully with her. Okay, because think about it, he's in a position of power over here, her. That's why I keep saying the authority figure. It's not really a. I'm not going to say it's never going to be an equal position, but I think you all get my point here. Okay, he has a little bit too much power over her to be having something like this really go down, to put it bluntly. But it's going down anyway. Okay. And that's why you have verse 10 here. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. In other words, no, you're not going to be shady with her, because you went into this with this authority figure mentality. Verse 11, and if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money. In other words, don't think you're going to try to any type of redemption. Don't think you're going to get any type of pay. There's no ties to her no more like that, man. Those ties are over. Okay. So don't try to run that game being a businessman, and what trips me out is what brothers have turned this into. How many wives can I have, this polygyny thing, and for me, a lot of that comes out of this lustful and this horror spirit that's running around out here. That came from brothers teaching this crazy doctrine that just because you lay with a sister, that's your wife now. You lay with a man, that's your husband now. And so, a lot of brothers and sisters' priorities get messed up when they read this, and they don't realize it's just about a sister who went and got a job. She was working for an authority figure, the boss. And like a lot of times, he has a lot of influence over her, and she got married, she's getting betrothed to him or to his son, and the authority figure is acting shady about the whole thing. He has a big head, and she doesn't get taken advantage of. Okay, that's what this is mostly about here. This is not about how you can figure out how many wives you can have. Okay, not saying you can't have another one, but that's not really what this is about right here. Okay, it just trips me out what brothers and sisters, but mostly brothers, have turned this into. So far I've dealt with three labor classes. The Israelite, who is a higher servant, the non-Israelite, who is a higher servant, and the woman, who is a higher servant. Okay, so let's deal with the third one. The one where there's also some confusion with a lot of these practitioners of Judaism and rabbinical law, the Hebrew. This is Exodus 21 and 2, Exodus 21 and 2 through 21 and 6. Exodus 21 and 2 through 21 and 6. Verse 2. If thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. Verse 5. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Okay, first of all, it's not talking about an Israelite here. We know from other laws that an Israelite cannot serve anybody forever unless the Heavenly Father, is spanking, is turning them over to another nation of people completely. Then yeah, like our situation now. But if we're living in our own land, we're living our lives, we're getting our jobs, whatever, our brothers are hired servants. Israelites are hired servants. Israelites cannot be pledged to anybody to be ruled over forever. Okay. And that's why, and this kind of ties into this indentured servitude thing. And it's just, okay. When you really get off into the law, that's just not how we work. Okay. People forget we have 7 brothers. Okay. If you want to know who the Hebrews are, it's a bunch of them running around North Africa right now in 2016, Central Africa, East Africa and all through the Middle East. And they go your brothers. They all around there. You can go turn on CNN, and sometimes you see them on TV. This is not talking about an Israelite, okay? And this is a lot of, like I said, people who into these different religious doctrines get this confused, and things like an oral law and all this other stuff. They get confused because they listen to the heathens and they don't read that law. We are hired servants, Israelites. We are not indentured servants, and nobody putting it all through anybody's ear so they can serve somebody forever. We can do our other Hebrew brothers like that, Abraham's other sons. Okay, but not an Israelite. Let's go to Deuteronomy 15 and 12. Through Deuteronomy 15 and 18. It's Deuteronomy 15 and 12 through Deuteronomy 15 and 18. Verse 12. And if thy brother, an Hebrew man, or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, and in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Verse 14, thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Therefore I command thee this thing today. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee in thine house, because he is well with thee. Verse 17, then thou shalt take an awl and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservant thou shalt do likewise. Verse 18, it shall not seem hard unto thee, when thou sendest him away from thee away free from thee, for he hath been worth a double hired servant to thee, in serving thee 6 years. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all that thou doest. So, this is why I said your Hebrew brother. Well, first of all, let's get into this double hired servant. In serving these 6 years. So that tells you that a hired servant is 3 years. Okay. And this is also why I say that this is a hired servant or a bondmaid and bondwoman. Your Hebrew brothers, they can be either one of them. They start off as a hired servant, a double hired servant, and then they can move into being basically a slave, as we would call it today. Somebody that's passed along from one generation to the next. But again, this is a Hebrew, one of Abraham's other sons. They're still running around right now in 2016. This is not an Israelite. Okay. Now let's get into the slaves, the bondmen and the bondwomen. It's Leviticus 25 and 44 through Leviticus 25 and 46. It's Leviticus 25 and 44 through Leviticus 25 and 46. Well, first, so far, we have the Israelite who's an hired servant. We have the stranger in the land who's an hired servant. We have the woman who's an hired servant. We have the Hebrew who's not an Israelite. Now, one of your 7 brothers who is a hired servant or a bondman, a bondwoman, or slave. Okay. Now we're going to deal just with the bondmen or bondwomen, the slaves. Leviticus 25 and 44 through 46. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. Verse 46, and ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you. to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule one over another with rigor. So again, let's go over this again. Verse 45, we'll start there. Of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy. So this is why you see me say that first generation of stranger in the land is a hired servant. You can't hire them as bondmen and bondwomen. But that first generation man or woman's child, them you can have as a bondman or a bondwoman. And let me explain why that's important, especially for those who have issues with slaves and stuff like that. You have certain groups, and that's something? They're into Judaism and rabbinical law and all this stuff like that. And they have these political doctrines, right? And let's say that you have your land and you're not able to make that second generation to be a bondman and bondwoman, right? And they start to feel comfortable. They start to feel good about themselves. They start to feel equal to the Israelites. And let's say somebody come in and these are labor laws now, right? And they say, let's organize. Let's get us a union going on in here. And some people would do that. And they cause all kind of problems in your land. These laws are the way that they are for a reason. It's not like this by accident. Okay? And so I know some people have issues with quote-unquote slavery, but this is some of the best kind of slavery you ever want to see in your life, because believe it or not, they can actually walk away. But that's a whole nother set of laws. But as a matter of fact, you know, let's read that one more time. Leviticus 25 and 44 through 46. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. 45. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. 46. And you shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule one over another with rigor. And, you know, if they don't like it, they can get out the land. I mean, straight up. If this is something that's an issue with somebody, leave. Go find you another way to make a living somewhere else outside of Israelites' land, an Israelite's land. Now, Exodus 21 and 16, because we're going to deal with a few more things here. Exodus 21 and 16. Well, hold on. So, I have named off those five labor classes. The Israelite, who is a hired servant. The non-Israelite, who is a hired servant. The woman, who is a hired servant. The Hebrew non-Israelite, who is a hired servant. It could be made into a bondman or bondwoman. And the straight up bondman and bondwoman, a straight up slave. Those are 5 labor classes that we have. Now, Exodus 21 and 16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. So all you brothers out there that think that you're just going to be able to knock somebody over the head and say, you my slave now. It doesn't work like that. That's the death penalty for you. You can't do that. Because you got a lot of brothers out here now who think that they're just going to be knocking people across the head. And, you my slave now. Nobody. You're going to be standing in front of a judge. And if you get found guilty, you're going to get put to death. You're going to get put to death. Deuteronomy 23 and 15 through Deuteronomy 23 and 16. Deuteronomy 23 and 15. Thou shalt not deliver unto his master the servant which is escaped from his master unto thee. Verse 16. He shall dwell with thee, even among you, in that place which he shall choose in one of thy gates, where it liketh him best. Thou shalt not oppress him. Now that's a trip right there when you actually start thinking about it. And the most I've come up with just meditating on that is that, you know, those slaves are going to be living pretty good. They're going to be almost like part members of the family. I mean, it's just, if you really start thinking about it. And that goes for the higher, even the higher servants. You know, people who just go get a job. You know what I mean? It's it's gonna be a pretty nice job. Okay, just because they can move. You know, they can turn into a yearly hired servant. You know, it's not as oppressive as some people would try to make it out to be. And again, that comes from that Little House on the Prairie mentality. People thinking like a bunch of barbarians because they've been eyeballing and listening to the barbarians instead of actually reading and paying attention to our law and believing what the scripture tells us. You're going to be living in peace and prosperity. You know, you're going to be a profitable nation of people. You know, it's going to be a lovely time, a beautiful time. If you just keep these laws, you'll be living you'll be living beautiful. If you understand that, then you understand that it's a fact. It is 100% fact. Now, Exodus 21:20. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. 21. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. Exodus 21:26 through 27. And if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. 21:27. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. Okay. Now, again, an Israelite is not an indentured servant. Okay. An Israelite is a hired servant. If you are stupid enough to loan your brother some money and he hadn't paid you back within that 6 years, okay, then that debt is released. Okay. He got 6 years to pay you back, or from whatever the time that you loan the money to that 6 years is up to pay you back. If you don't pay him back in that time, then that debt is released. He has bad credit and you ain't getting your money back. Okay. This is a fact. And yes, Hebrew Israelites do have slaves. Okay. Bond men and bond women. We can get them from the strangers round about us, or one of our Hebrew brothers, one of Abraham's other sons, can be made into a slave. Okay. Some people don't like that, but as you can see, it's more than anything else a voluntary type issue. Once that pledge is made, then it's made. If individuals don't like it, get out the land. It ain't for you. Period. It just ain't for you. And of course, these sisters out here with this polygyny and this law that they turned, which was a sister who, remember, she went and got a job. Yeah, right. She hooked up with the boss man or his son. Those are 2 authority figures now. And most likely because they really have no business doing that. Okay. If you really think about their level of responsibility as the boss and she's the employee, they really have no business doing all that. It's probably going to be some type of shady mess going on. Okay. So there are laws in place to really protect her. Okay. Because in that case, it's understandable. It's understandable. This ain't just like y'all. Some of y'all like to have some brother that just whisper sweet Hebrew in her ear and just swept her off her feet, and she didn't know what she was doing. This was her boss. You know what I'm saying? This is the person who's cutting her checks, helping her pay her bills for her household, for her father's household, and for her family, or helping her put her way through school, whatever. I think y'all get the point. Now, hopefully you all were able to get some understanding about all of the different labor classes that we have in Israelite law, and that no, you can't turn your brother into no indentured servant, no slave, no none of that. Okay. And so hopefully again you guys were able to get something out of this, and peace.